Chapter 5. The Giant's Tomb. Gyges stood frozen in front of the sarcophagus. The earthquake had thrown him into the depths, the darkness had carried him through stone corridors, but now he had the impression that he had reached the true destination of his journey. Everything he had seen until then seemed only a preparation for the present moment. The task of facing death and mystery was much harder than the descent itself. In front of him, the immense black sarcophagus seemed to breathe a cold and solemn air, like an altar erected for a fallen god. Gyges approached with small steps. The weak light of the carved crystals in the walls danced on the surface of the stone, giving the illusion that the bas-reliefs were moving. He saw figures of people, gods and fantastic animals, all caught in a whirlwind of lines and spirals. It seemed to him that those symbols were not simple ornaments, but an unknown language, a story engraved for those who had the courage to look. Touching those shapes with his fingers, Gyges felt a strange vibration. Cold stone, but full of energy, as if his hand had awakened the shadows of those who had raised the tomb. He remembered the stories told by the village elders at the campfire, legends about the race of giants who had lived on Earth before men. The gods, fearing their power, had struck them down, burying their bodies in the depths. Where the earth trembled, there lay the forgotten colossi. I have found the tomb of one of them, Gyges thought. Feeling his blood freeze in his veins, he gathered all his strength and pushed the massive lid open. A dull creak filled the hole, and the stone moved slowly, as if it had endured centuries of silence. A wave of stale air hit his face, bringing with it the heavy smell of antiquity. His gaze sank into the darkness of the sarcophagus, and gradually, he saw the outlines. First the fragments of armor, massive plates, now covered in green and red rust, but still suggesting the greatness of a warrior. Then the bones, white but huge, disproportionate to a human body. The skull had deep sockets, like two empty caves, and the large teeth, still embedded in the jaw, made it look like a beast. The skeleton was lying with his hands on his chest, in a position of eternal sleep, but in that solemn silence, Gyges had the impression that the giant could open his eyes at any time. Never had he felt the weight of time so strongly. Before him was a body that had slept for thousands of years, witness to eras that people no longer knew. But what immediately caught his eye was the Colossus's right hand. On its bony finger shone a golden ring, intact, untouched by the passage of time. While the armor and bones had been worn away by time, the jewel seemed new, as if it had just been forged. It was a massive ring, with a large black stone, which, when reflected in the light of the crystals, sparkled with greenish flashes. It was not a simple ornament, it seemed a sacred object, a seal of power. Gyges remained motionless, his hands trembling. He felt the attraction of that ornament, but also an almost animalistic